Catholics believe that at the Last Supper, when Jesus said, "This is my body," the bread actually became his body. Over the centuries, Christ has given us a series of Eucharistic miracles, where the bread is transformed into his flesh. The tissues from these Eucharistic miracles have been studied by medical doctors from around the world, and in this video you will hear from them firsthand and see their medical reports. What we see is that each miracle contains a startling pattern that science has discovered. The patterns are: 1. There is heart tissue. 2. The heart is living. 3. The heart is suffering. 4. The blood is type AB. And 5. DNA tests were all inconclusive. In this video, I'll focus on the 3 best documented Eucharistic miracles: Tixla, Buenos Aires, and Lanciano. We will start with Tixla, Mexico. On October 21st, 2006, Father Raimundo Esteban and sisters were distributing communion during Mass. One sister brought over a ciborium to show Father that a red liquid had begun to come from the host. I spoke with Dr. Eduardo Sanchez Lazo, who personally analyzed the miraculous tissue. Using electron microscopy, he discovered the most amazing aspect I've ever heard for a Eucharistic miracle: that the blood came from inside the host. And the blood then covered the host in a similar way as when you get a paper cut. The blood flows from that point. He officially stated this: the possibility of bleeding coming from the outside to the inside is ruled out. Dr. Lazo's analyses are routinely presented in court, as he specializes in legal medicine. This eliminates the possibility of fraud due to the lack of technology. Here he says,
si no es una tecnología que nos va a llegar en 50 o 100 años, que todavía no la tenemos aquí.
Which means it is technology that should be here in 50 to 100 years, but we still do not have it here. He also mentioned that he put an unconsecrated host through the same tests, and it disintegrated. Is that amazing or what? Now, skeptics often raise this concern. How can one prove that the tissue analyzed was truly the tissue from the Eucharistic miracle? Here we see the doctor who had the host in his laboratory, found that the tissue was living 3 years after the event, formally claimed the statement above after studying it for 3 months, and DNA testing was inconclusive. This appears supernatural to me. Now let's look at the miracle in Buenos Aires, Argentina. On August 18th, 1996, Father Alejandro Pazet was informed that there was a host sitting in a candlestick on the side of the church. It was dusty, so rather than consuming the host, it was put in a bowl of water to dissolve. 2 weeks later, this appeared. A renowned forensic pathologist, Dr. Frederick Zugabe, who is on the History Channel, National Geographic, and taught at Columbia University, analyzed this tissue. Here is what he said.
Heart tissue. You get it from a person getting beat up across the chest.
One hypothesis was that this tissue was from a heart that was beaten across the chest. That is important, as Jesus was severely beaten during his passion. Dr. Zugabe performed over 10,000 autopsies in his career, so proposing the cause of death is something he has experience with. While this hypothesis is not definitive, it shows that the heart was suffering. What we see in every Eucharistic miracle that's been medically analyzed is that it is heart tissue. I think it is Jesus showing the world that we all have broken or hardened hearts, and by receiving him, the Eucharistic heart of Jesus, he can heal us. Dr. Zugabe wrote his conclusions here and stated that he was not informed of the history of the material. The blood type was not tested due to the small amount of tissues, but DNA testing was performed by forensic analytical, and the results were inconclusive. Going back to Tixla, the blood that was found was type AB. AB blood was also found on the Shroud of Turin. It is interesting how the Eucharistic miracles have type AB blood, and this was found before the shroud was analyzed. Now, AB blood is the rarest form, with less than 7% of people in the world having this blood type. While this is not a proof of authenticity, it leads me, and I hope you, to believe that this is truly the flesh of Jesus Christ that we have the opportunity to receive at the holy sacrifice of the Mass. I mentioned earlier that in Tixla, they found that it was living tissue. In fact, in one of the slides, a white blood cell was in the process of swallowing fatty material. That's how alive this tissue was. In both Buenos Aires and Tixla, it had been years since the miracle, but there were still living white blood cells under the microscope. White blood cells typically die within minutes, but these were living, showing that the heart tissue was alive. Jesus said, "I am the living bread that came down from heaven, and the bread that I will give is my flesh for the life of the world." Should we be surprised that his flesh is living? Why else would he say, "I am the living bread"? Finally, we review Lanciano, or Lanciano, which is the most popular Eucharistic miracle. In the 8th century, a priest doubted whether our Lord was truly present in the consecrated host. When he said the words of consecration, "This is my body," during Mass, he saw the host turn into flesh. While this is amazing, what is even more amazing is that the flesh is on display. Over a millennia after the event, the flesh is still present. Last year I was able to visit with my wife, twin boys, and in-laws. It was a priceless memory. In the 1970s, this was analyzed by Dr. Lanoli, and his article can actually be found on PubMed. The article is in Italian, but my great friends in Rome translated it into English. You can see it at this link. The full article has never before been shown on YouTube in English. His analysis revealed that this was human blood, type AB, and the flesh was heart tissue. He also stated that the blood has ratios of normal fresh blood. How could blood that is over 1,000 years old appear to be fresh? It's a miracle.